Next scene, Xanna was now completely backed up against a rock, just like the orc she had almost regrettably pulled the damn beast off of. Izzy, think of something, the orc is hiding behind that rock. Izzy had finished for her post, pointing at the rock the young green orc boy had been hiding behind after finally spotting him. He was just a little ways from where the pink elf girl was, peeking out his head, staring and watching the confrontation Xanna was having with his raptor friends. What? Was all Xanna could reply, carefully peeking around the raptors to her left. To her astonishment, she actually saw the orc, whom quickly tried to hide behind the rock again. How did you... she began to ask, not even thinking of why the orc hadn't come to her rescue yet, as she had to punch one of the raptors in its nose to keep it at bay, then kick away the other two. Ask questions later! Her voice shouted at her, if you had the attention span to remember that far. Just fight! She quickly added, her eyes darting off in a random direction. Right, hey, Xanna said, catching on to Izzy's insult. Xanna inwardly put her hands on her hips, shooting Izzy a look. Fight, damn it! Was all she yelled to her, close to pulling out her hair as the raptors ever so slowly began to show their teeth. Fine. The idiot girl huffed in her mind, gripping both of her daggers tightly in reality, finally prepared to fight. The raptors growled, the one to her far right immediately trying to lash out at her. She made a slash at it with her dagger, only nicking it. After the first moves were made, the orc quickly ran in, taking the third raptor off of her to help ease the fight. Careful, you idiot! Izzy yelled as Xanna just barely caught herself stumbling to the ground, being hit hard in the kidney from one of the raptors. The girl let out a groan in pain from being hit in such a sensitive area, quickly getting back to her feet and continuing to fight on. It's not there. It's not there, she repeated to herself, one arm wrapped around herself as she pretended the pain wasn't there, something she'd do to help ease the pain she was in. Ugh, I hate raptors. Watch out! Izzy warned as the other raptor tried to pull the same trick. Gracefully, Xanna did a backflip away from the raptors, kicking one in the face as she did so. Ugh, I hate raptors. I hate them! As she was landing, one of the raptors had tried to take another bite out of her, missing and only just barely getting the very end of her ponytail, taking off 3 tiny strands of her hair. And this is what caused the girl to snap. As she finally landed, Xanna had made the halting car sound once again. The odd noise grabbing the attention of the raptors and the orc boy, causing them all to stop fighting. She then quickly threw up her hands and made the time out sign. Whoa! Time out! She shouted to all of them. After that, she looked down, horrified, when she saw the 3 tiny hairs of hers the raptor had taken off. Slowly, and a bit shakily, she knelt down, ever so delicately picking up each hair with her left hand, placing them in her right. She stared at the hairs in silence for a moment. Her eyes widened and mouth slightly open in shock and horror. Of course, she completely ignored the odd looks being given to her for this. Horror, shock, and horror. It's getting used so frequently. I think you should only repeat standout words like just a couple of times a chapter, maybe every other chapter. Basically, only once per chapter, I think. That's what I've been coming to learn in writing. I am still learning, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. After her moment of silence, Xanna closed her eyes tight, scowled deeply, and lowered her head a bit, crushing the hairs as she balled her hand up into a fist. She was about to lose it. Yes, over her hair. And that's the sign for duck and cover, Izzy said, slapping on an army helmet as she quickly ran and dived behind a fort that had come from nowhere in Xanna's mind, making sure she was as well protected as she could be for the girl's meltdown. No one. The pink elf girl began grimly, slowly bringing her balled up hand with the hairs in it up to her chest. Misses, she continued, now bringing her hand up to the bottom of her chin. With the hair! She screamed, bringing her head back up, her eyes darting open and shooting a slight murderous glare to the raptor that had done the action. Not even a split second later, after screaming the rest of her statement, she was up in the air, quite a few feet off the ground, making everyone's eyes widen in absolute horror.